Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest, former OVW heavyweight champion, former IWA Puerto Rico champion, heavyweight champion, of course, former member of TNA, may know him as the Red Shirt Security or Trytan. He's, of course, Mr. Ryan Wilson. Ryan, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing great. What's going on in your world? What are you up to?
But I'm just father of three now. I'm a manager at a motorsports place. We sling side by sides, four wheelers, ATVs, anything outdoors. I was in medical sales for about 10 years until COVID hit. Got laid off when COVID hit, and I've been doing motorsports for about the last three and a half years.
Anything wrestling related going on anymore? No.
No, I'm not doing anything wrestling related, man. I mean, I try to keep up with it, but not really been in the ring in a while, man. I keep up with it. Obviously, I still have friends in the business, but as far as in ring performing, I haven't done anything really pretty much since 08, 09.
Did you fall out of love with the business?
No, I love the business, man. It was just when I was WWE, I was on the road and OVW, I would go up there and, Undertaker was kind of my mentor, things like that. I spent a lot of time with the Undertaker, Kane, a lot of great dudes. I never got my big break. So when my contract was coming up, my wife wanted a family. And so I just tried to, I guess I decided to go the family route versus, still chasing that dream. You know what I mean?
Yep. So what was Undertaker like as a mentor?
Undertaker is a amazing dude. You don't see a lot of people in life that when they walk in they kind of own the room. But I would say Undertaker, The Rock, those are a couple guys I met when they walk in. They kind of own the room. So he was very down to earth to me, and helped me any way he could. You know, um, when I was OVW, I went up there and WWE and did a few things, and he was like, "Anytime I'm on the road, you're on the road." I'm like, "Yes, sir." You know what I mean? So um, he did everything he could to help me. It was just like, as far as the WWE, I guess they felt like I never had the it factor. You know what I mean? So, um, like I said, I just never got that big break. So when my contract came up, I mean, I left on good terms. Um, I just decided to come home and get off the road 300 plus days a year, and just kind of do the family thing. You know what I mean?
So what attracted like Undertaker to you? Is it like a fellow big man kind of thing? Like I'm going to help this guy along. I like this young kid. He's big and he's got size. I'm going to try to work with him on big man psychology stuff.
I think the big man thing definitely helped. I think, at the time I was an athletic big man. I played college basketball, played overseas. Um, those guys who are the top guys, obviously I'm not a threat to them. I mean, I'm not going to take Triple H, Undertaker, Cena. I'm not taking their spot. But they also see a new, fresh face as a way to make money. So, you know, um, if he could help me, gain my career, there's a new angle for him, to draw business, things like that. So, I think it's pretty much documented that Undertaker is probably the most respected man in the locker room, So, and it was just a way for him to see a new opponent, maybe, draw business, draw money, do what's best for business, things like that. So,
What made him like the locker room leader? Because everyone says that, but it's not like he anointed himself that. I mean, he just kind of just happens, right?
I think it just happens over time. I think it's just his demeanor. Um, obviously at the time, a lot of guys kind of left because WCW was throwing a lot of money at people. Um, and I think WCW actually never even reached out to him because they knew how loyal he was to Vince and WWE. And I just think over time and, how he kept adapting that character and how his longevity over 30 years and, he's just his mind for the business, man. It was just unbelievable. And I think just the respect, the mind for the business, the loyalty to WWE, I think everything just kind of came in place. And, I mean, in real life, he's the American badass, dude. So,
Yeah.
so it's, I think he just over time gained that respect and he was the locker room leader.
Just amazing, like that he kind of takes a liking to you, so he wants to travel with you and hang out with you. I mean, that's got to be cool. It's like the ultimate kind of like respect too, right?
I felt very honored about it. You know what I mean? Like, when first went up there, I was obviously young, green, trying to, you know, even though I'm a big guy, I was trying to show my athleticism. So I'm doing like, leapfrogs, drop downs, blah, blah, blah. And he came down and he was like, big man, I don't never want to see you do that again. He's like, you got to use your size. So, and then we just kind of gradually, developed a relationship. And he was like, anytime I'm on the road, you're on the road. I'm like, okay. And Kane is, I mean, Kane's such a smart man. He's a genius, man. It was like, I would talk to Kane and he was like, well, you're probably more confused now than when we first started the conversation. And I'm like,
Yeah.
he's a brilliant man and how he sees the world and how he sees the wrestling business. And obviously now what he's doing as far as mayor of, Knoxville, he's such a brilliant man, but those two guys, again, being bigger guys and see me as a bigger guy and, you know, possibly see me as future opponents. And, the wrestling business, that's what you want to do. You want to create business, you want to create the money, you want to create things like that, and that's what it's about, and those fans, that's what's paying your salary and you respect that, and you sign every autograph you can, you do things like, so, but everybody in WWE when I was there was great to me. Triple H, Kane, Cena, everybody, they were great to me. You know what I mean? So I just never got my big break. And when my contract came up, I talked to John Laurinaitis and I was like, well, I'm just going to kind of take a break, man. I'm going to go to Japan, things like that. And then, excuse me, my wife wanted to have a family and I was, obviously, I think every man wants to have a family. So I went that route and then kind of fell into the medical sales role. And so I kind of fell out of the wrestling business.
What did you think about Johnny Ace?
I mean, he was always good to me. Um, him and his little raspy voice. I mean,
Yeah.
he was always good to me. I remember I had a dark match. And he was like, man, we're going to get you out of OVW. It was with Val Venus. We had a really good match and things like that. And then, my big break was obviously supposed to become against Taker. We filmed a few things and things like that. But then he tore his bicep against Batista. So he was out like 6 months. And then when he came back, obviously they had that built-in angle. And so I was just kind of out of the mix again. And I just never got my big break, man. So I just kind of, I guess, again, tired of being on the road 300 days a year, being beat up, never got that big break. And my wife wanted a family. And so I just kind of, I guess, in a sense, faded away. You know what I mean?
Yep. When you look at it, what were you filming with Undertaker that you were supposed to be working with him?
Oh, we were just doing I was just doing like vignettes, stuff like that. Just kind of, I don't think anything was set in stone. We were just kind of filming, I was kind of filming vignettes and stuff like that just to kind of, I guess, kind of see an idea of the characters, you know what I mean? And things like that.
Did
Necessarily
he
with me and Taker, it was just kind of like me filming vignettes, talking like, well, I'm the new big guy in town, whatever. So
What gimmick did you have at that point? Were you just Jacob Duncan when you were about to feud with him?
Yeah, just Jacob Duncan. Yeah. So
Was it going to be basically like kind of what they did with a lot of guys, like that big monster comes in, like they did with Heidenreich and a bunch of other guys. Kali at one point, big monster comes in, beats up Taker, and then they feud for a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I felt like it could have been, come in and have, some squash matches, stuff like that, and then just kind of build up to the, to the Undertaker. You know what I mean? Kind of like the back old school, like Yokozuna days. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
When you look at that, I mean that's kind of pretty cool. But are they promising anything? You know what I mean? Like you're thinking about the vignettes, you're doing stuff. Are they promising anything? Like, hey, you're going to get a feud with Taker?
No, man, nothing's ever promised. I think the business changes literally weekly. You know what I mean? Um, I felt like the Jacob Duncan character could have been like, God rest his soul, but I look at it and I think it could have been similar to the Bray Wyatt character. Kind of a dark, eerie, with the globe coming down to the ring. It kind of could have been that type of guy. You know what I mean? I based my character Jacob Duncan on Sling Blade, if you remember the movie, as
Oh
far as
yeah,
talked, things like that. I'm just kind of an uneducated, guy from the woods, kind of awkward, socially awkward, but then Bray Wyatt was kind of like, his promos were unbelievable. He used words I didn't even understand,
right.
but as far as the globe glowing and stuff like that, I kind of felt like Jacob Duncan was kind of somewhere in between there with the Bray Wyatt character. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But
When
it
you look,
never took off. I think part of it probably was, man, when I was there, I think WWE was kind of going towards more. They wanted more of the kind of a shoot fight, kind of like MMA. They weren't really into the characters, But as far as being a big guy, and I tried to separate myself with the mask and stuff like that, and I needed that character. You know what I mean? So I wasn't necessarily the. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Wasn't necessarily the best technical wrestler, But I think I was big. I had the look, had the mask, things like that. So I think, in my opinion, there was money to be made there, but it just didn't work out.
who creates that gimmick and that name and everything? Is that them or you?
Well, I created the gimmick. We were on break, and I was in OVW, and I was like, man, I'm just a dude in tights, and I've been here a year and a half, and nothing's fucking taken off. So I actually got in contact with the guy who made Kane's mask, and he sent me this stuff to take measurements, for my mask. I kind of told him what I wanted, kind of my character intake. Then my wife went into the woods and shot a promo. And Danny Davis, at OVW, him and Al Snow loved it. And they're like, oh, this is going straight to New York. I was like, all right, cool. And things started popping, you know what I mean? And then it just kind of had all this momentum, and then it just kind of crashed.
When that happens, is it frustrating or is you just like, it's just a part of the business?
It was frustrating for me because I kind of felt like, because at OVW, man, I had like when I would come out, the arena was rocking. Like they were like, Jacob's gonna kill you. Jacob's gonna kill you. You know what I mean? So I had it. You know what I mean? I had the followers, things like that. I just never when I went to do dark matches and stuff like that, Vince and they were just I guess they never felt the character. You know what I mean? Like I had some dark matches where they're like, you can wear what you want to wear, just take the mask off. I'm like, the mask is kind of like that's 75% of the character. You know what I mean? That's kind of the mystery of the character. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And life happens for a reason, man. I've got a beautiful family, so I can't complain. But would I have loved to have a great run on the main roster? Absolutely.
When you look back at like that gimmick, right? I mean, you're kind of creating it. Is that a problem too? You think that they didn't create it? Because you always hear from certain wrestlers like, "Oh, if they didn't create it, if they didn't come up with it, they're not going to get behind it." Is that an issue, or do you think that was a problem too?
Possibly. You know what I mean? It is entertainment business, so it is what it is. But I was just the kind of guy, man. I mean, I'm from Southeast Kentucky, man. I'm not a drama guy. I'm not a politics guy backstage. I showed up, did my job, and loved the business. Yeah, I've loved the business since I was, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. And how I fell into the business, I played basketball at East Tennessee State University, and then I played in Argentina. I blew my ankle out over there, so it was literally like a year process. I was in a cast for 18 weeks, walking boot for 16 weeks, total reconstruction on my ankle. And then at the time, I was managing a chain of Gold's Gyms in Nashville, and that's just when TNA first started. So the boys, were working out in the gym, and I was in a cast or walking boots, so all I could do was work out. So I'm 6'9", and then all I could do is lift. So I got big, obviously, and then the boys are working out there and wrestling fans. So I started working out with them, taking bumps, and then so that's kind of how I fell into TNA as far as my first job. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then my contract came up there, and obviously WWE is kind of the mecca. I mean, that's Major League Baseball as far as wrestling goes. So I remember I had a tryout in Cleveland, and then the next night I had a tryout in Pittsburgh at Mellon Arena, and Tommy Dreamer. And then fortunately, I got a call a few days later, from Johnny Ace, and they offered me a deal to go to OVW, and I went there, and you know, we had a good class in OVW, man. It was so it was a fun time. It really was. I just never got, I guess, that big break. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And when you're wrestling 300 days a year, you don't get that big break, and your body's beat up and things like that, and your wife's want to start a family. I was just like, well, you know, I mean, knock on wood. I mean, I've got a college degree, things like that, so I mean, I could do other things, and that's kind of when I fell into the medical sales side of it. So
As you look back though, at like OVW and your time with Al Snow, I just keep thinking about this documentary that just came out, Wrestlers, that was on Netflix. Did you happen to see that or watch any of that?
I did not watch it. I've heard good things about it. I'm thrilled for Al and those guys. Um, just to be full disclosure, I'm not a big fan of Matt Jones, so
Oh wait, so you know Matt? How do you know Matt?
I don't really know Matt. I just know, like, I'm from originally from Southeast Kentucky, and he is too. And when he first started his, KSR, Kentucky Sports Radio, I listened to it, and now when I listen to it, I mean, I don't even listen to it, to be honest with you, just because the way he treats people. So um, I'm just not a fan of Matt Jones, but I'm super happy for. I love Al Snow to death. I think he's a great guy, great trainer, knows the wrestling business inside and out. So I have not watched the documentary, um, but I have heard great things about it.
Matt Jones, the way he treats people, how so? Like on the radio? Or you mean you were hearing with OVW stuff like that?
Just on the radio, I'm not sure about that, but I mean, his callers, he calls it. These callers call in, he just cuts them off, and kind of in a way talks down to them. Like, dude, why would you even call into this show? You know what I mean? So I quit. I don't know, probably 2 or 3, 4 years ago. Even listening to him when it first started, I was like, "Cool, man. I'm from Williamsburg, Kentucky, Southeast Kentucky. He's from Millsboro. I'm happy for him, man. And then it just kind of, I guess, as it got more popular, he just kind of, you know, how it is. People, things go to people's heads. You know what I mean? I always try to stay pretty humble. You know what I mean? But
New York Sports Talk Radio. There's a bunch of guys like that, shutting down the callers, being rude and stuff.
well, it's like Stephen A. Smith. I don't see why anybody in the world watches Stephen A. Smith. Why? You know what I mean? I don't get it. I don't get why ESPN pays him $10 million a year or whatever it is.
Yeah, just to be outrageous, I guess. I don't know. I guess some people are into that, or maybe hate watch it.
Yeah,
They hate it
just be loud. It's like, really? Okay.
and not really have a good point either. But yeah, for the most part, just being the loudest guy in the room.
Yeah. Where are you guys based out of? Just curious.
I'm in Asbury Park, New Jersey, the home of Bam Bam Bigelow.
Very nice. Bam Bam, one of the best big men of all time.
Is that a guy you would study and stuff and look at? Because I mean, he's got to be up there as the top three to me. One of the best big men ever.
He's up there, man, but I couldn't do what Bam Bam did. I'm not that agile. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I couldn't do the flips and stuff he did. You know what I'm saying?
The cartwheels and the somersaults. Yeah.
I was more like a taker guy. I could jump over. I could jump from in the ring over the top rope to the outside, stuff like that. But as far as all the stuff off the top rope that Bam Bam did, no, I couldn't do that stuff, man. You know what I mean? Bam Bam's he's a special person or a special wrestler. Vader was a special guy too, as far as being that big and being that agile. I think Kane, for his size, man, I think Kane was an unbelievable athlete. You know what I mean? I mean, you compare like Vader and Bam Bam to like King Kong Bundy. I mean, there's no comparison. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think Vader, Bam Bam, those guys for what they did and what they were able to do off the ropes and stuff. I mean, I couldn't do that. You know what I mean?
And I guess Undertaker wouldn't want you to do that, right? He was telling you to cut some of that stuff out. He wanted you to be, I guess, a different style big man.
Yeah. I was more like I guess, Kevin Nash type guy. You know, big boot, stuff in the corner, power bomb. I was more like a Kevin Nash type guy, which Kevin, every time I met him, dude, he treated me amazing. Scott Hall, same way. Scott Hall was amazing. I remember watching Scott Hall when I was growing up in a high school gym in Barberville, Kentucky. You know, he came out to If Heaven Ain't a Lot Like Dixie. He was a big baby face, man. So I've been in the wrestling business since, we're into it since I was, like I said, young. But, Scott Hall, Nash, all those guys that I grew up watching. And then when I met them, they were amazing to me. They treated me well. They did everything they could to help me. So, I mean, I had great experiences in the wrestling business. Jeff Jarrett, TNA, they gave him my first shot. But at the time, TNA was more about the high flyers, AJ, guys like that. So being a big guy, it wasn't as attractive, So my contract came up there and had an opportunity to do a, WWE tryout. And, it worked out. I got a contract, and then probably a year and a half into it, I got on the road doing some, dark matches. My first dark match in WWE was at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, which I thought was pretty cool just because of the arena and all the history, stuff like that. It was against Funaki. And then, I got to meet so many people, and, the wrestling business is great to me, man. I mean, obviously it's hard on your body, but, from a personal standpoint, it was great to me. I've got great memories. I went to Japan and wrestled, and Puerto Rico and wrestled. And so, I mean, I have no regrets. It just, for whatever reason, I just never got that big break,
When you look at the TNA stuff, like you were saying with the smaller guys, obviously X Division was like the big thing. Is that kind of why you didn't get more of a look there? Or do you think maybe you were too green when you first got there? Like, how come you didn't get more of a look there, given like the size and the look?
I think it was a little bit of both. You know what I mean? I think it was a little bit of both. It was more of the high flyer X Division. I was green, you know what I mean? And then I had the Trytan character, I had the trunks, the whole 9 yards, and then the night that I was going to debut Trytan against Monty Brown in Orlando, Jarrett pulls me aside. I was like, dude, you can't wear your trunks, you can't wear your jacket, you can't wear anything because Ultimate Warriors threatened to sue us. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, your label is too much like his, and he's threatening to sue us. I'm like, fuck. So that kind of put a little blemish on that. So I went out and basically just black trunks and, debuting in black trunks against Monty Brown, who at the time was, one of the top baby faces. And it was just, it was very dry. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, that stinks. So Warrior was watching TNA and saying he's going to sue. It's kind of crazy.
yeah, he said that my emblem, my, what I had on my trunks and my black leather jacket and stuff was a rip off of his emblem. So Jarrett pulled me to the side. I was like, man, you can't wear that. And I'm like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? So it was, I wore my jacket and I dropped it to the top of the stage. And then I had to wear just basic black trunks, and it was just kind of the build up to the Trytan character I thought was pretty cool. But when I debuted, because of the same day that happened, it was just kind of bland.
Yeah, the vignettes and stuff, right? I mean, the hype videos didn't match the character because of all that stuff.
Correct. Yep. So
What'd you think about that, though? I mean, that's got to be frustrating.
I was super frustrated because I was so pumped coming into the event. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, Monty Brown's hot as hell as a babyface. I'm coming in. These vignettes took off. Every time the vignettes hit, the crowd popped. And I'm coming in, and now I've got to drop my fucking jacket at the top stage wearing black. I mean, it basically diminished the character from the look.
Absolutely. Was it going to be a big push though for Triton, or I mean, or was it always going to be kind of Monty Brown's going to beat you, and then you're going to move forward, or you're going to get a big push from the character?
I thought it was going to be a big push. You know what I mean? I don't think I would necessarily win clean and things like that against Monty. You know what I mean? I think there would always be a twist, but I think it was always a good push as far as getting the character off to a good start. You know what I mean? As far as getting some momentum behind the Trytan character. But after that happened, it just kind of fizzled. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Who creates that character? Who's behind the character, Triton?
I did. I created the look, and then they kind of got on board about it. It's kind of like this is the future of wrestling, big guy that can move and, kind of had the look, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Because before you're just redshirt security, right? I mean, you're just, I
Yeah,
guess, just Brian Wilson. You're the red shirt.
kind of did the red shirt security. And that was just kind of a way of me to break into the business, I think, because of my size. You know what I mean?
So they see the big guy, they're like, all right, we got to do something with him.
Right. Right.
Like,
Like, what can we do with this guy? And then Kevin obviously was the mouthpiece, for that
yeah,
as well. You know what I mean?
yeah, Northcutt, and then
Yeah.
Murphy, right, was in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was at that time, I was super green, you know what I mean? And then Kevin was the mouthpiece. I was just kind of there being the, I guess, muscle of the operation, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and we had some good matches, man. We had a couple matches, on TNA where Jarrett, we had, say 6 or 8 minutes, and he would even say, no, give these guys another 4 or 5 minutes, you know what I mean? So, it was successful and just kind of, again, kind of fizzled out. It's like that's a frustrating part of the business. It's kind of like you get momentum and then the momentum dies, and you're like, man, this sucks. It's like I had that happen 2 or 3 or 4 times. It's like so. I really thought the Jacob Duncan character like had huge momentum because as soon as I came back from the break and showed Danny and Al kind of the videos that me and my wife had done, they're like, "Dude, this is going straight to New York," you know. And then we filmed OVW, and then we had a few matches after OVW just to showcase the Jacob Duncan character to send to New York. As far as the matches go. And I was like, and then like Beth Phoenix, Punk, everybody was like, dude, that's fucking cool. That's a cool character. You know what I mean? So I thought, here we go, man. This might be it. And then it never took off because at that time they were more into, MMA was taking off. So they felt like it needed to be more of like an MMA style. And they weren't really into characters as much. And, when I think about wrestling, I think about the characters growing up. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So
I feel like even then, still you needed a character to get over, not just the generic MMA guy or generic wrestler A versus generic wrestler B. I still think you needed a character at that point.
I agree. I mean, to me, that's why you watch wrestling is, the characters. I mean, obviously Vince is Vince. He's a genius. He's done wonders for wrestling. But in my opinion, if I want to watch MMA, I'm watching MMA. If I want to watch pro wrestling, I'm watching pro wrestling for the characters. You know what I mean? So, but again, I'd go up there and he'd be like, man, have dark matches. He's like, yeah, just lose the mask. Just go out there and wrestle. So I'd have the Jacob Duncan gear on, but no mask. And I'm like, well, that's 70 or 80% of the character is the mask and the mystery, things like that, So
What did you think about wrestling with a mask on?
I liked it, man, because when I came up and, again, I was in Nashville. I worked so many shows with Wildcat Chris Harris and Abyss. I learned so much from Abyss, and Abyss is such a fucking great big guy. And working with a mask and just his mannerisms and things like that, I stole so much shit from him when I was Jacob. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just his mannerisms and his body language, and I still talk to him today. He's just a great dude. But the Abyss is just such a great worker, and I stole so. I mean, I looked at him and how he worked the mask and his body language and stuff like that, and so, and obviously Kane. I mean, nobody can kind of replicate that, but just the body language and how you can have the mask, but yet you still connect with the crowd, stuff like that. But like I said, when I was OVW, I mean, I had such a connection with the crowd. I would come out and they'd be like, "Oh, Jacob's going to kill you," and it was just like as soon as my music hit, it popped, and so, and I felt like I could still carry that, to the main roster. It just
Right.
for some reason it never worked out, man.
Who else was in OVW with you at that point? Because it seems like a lot of good talent was around OVW in the mid 2000s.
Oh, dude, we had a good roster. Me, the Miz, all the Spirit Squad guys.
Punk?
Beth Phoenix, Maurice, Cody Rhodes came in. Paul Burchill, JT JTG, and Thad, who tragically passed away, were there. Roadkill from ECW was there. Lashley was there. Yeah, man, we had a good crew, man. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, a lot of good guys.
Yeah.
Were there. Who was booking at that point?
Punk came through there. Brent Albright, if you remember him.
Oh yeah, him and Punk had an awesome feud there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Al was booking at the time. Al Snow. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Heyman wasn't there, or Heyman was gone.
Heyman came for like a year, and then he was back up to the main roster.
What did you think about Paul E working for Heyman?
I loved him, dude. You know, I thought he was awesome. He was so intense, and he loved the business. You could feel his energy, and you know what I mean. So yeah, I thought Paul was awesome. You could just tell his energy, how much passion and love he had for the business. You know.
Did you also work for Cornette when he was there, or Cornette was long gone by the time you were there?
No, when I got there, Cornette was gone. Yeah.
Danny Davis still was running things with Al, I guess, when
Well,
Heyman wasn't there.
Danny at the time was still the owner. Yeah.
What did you think about Danny?
Danny is also him and his wife, great people. You know, Danny likes his Corvettes. So then you had Santino Morella. He came through there. Um, Mark Henry at the time was injured, and so he spent a lot of time there, just trying to like be a mentor, stuff like that. So he was there a lot. Um, so yeah, we had a lot of guys, man. You know, um, like I said, all the Spirit Squad guys. Obviously, Nick Nemeth kind of, or well, Dolph Ziggler kind of had the longest tenure, but he was there. Paul Burchill. I mean, we had a lot of guys who, you know, got a decent run on the main roster, come through there at the same time. You know.
When you win the OVW title, does that mean anything? Like as far as like, hey, that means I'm going to get this big push and I'm going to WWE, or does that not have any synergy as far as being the OVW champion and going up to the main roster?
I mean, I don't think it really necessarily has anything to do with the main roster, but it did. It was a big honor for me for them to believe in me that I could carry that company. You know, as far as being the champion, because you think about all the people who have held that title. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I remember that night. I thanked Danny. I was like, dude, it's an honor to have the title. You know what I mean? Because all the people who have kept it here and carried the title. You know. Boogeyman came through there when I was there. I mean, so many people, man, who, like I said, that got to run, you know, on the main roster. So,
When you're there, you're in OVW. Are you paid talent? Like, cause there's always the right. There's the contract guys and the non-contract guys. Were you a contract guy?
yeah, that's why I went to OVW. Is I had my tryout in Cleveland, and the next night I had a tryout in Pittsburgh, and they signed me to a contract, and that's when I started going to OVW. So yeah, I was getting paid weekly by WWE.
So that's also why those guys want to look out for you because they're saying, "Hey, they're paying this guy. We like this guy. We see something in him. Let's make sure we get a little good return on our investment because this is, this guy's 6'9", 300 pounds. Let's, do something with this guy."
Right, right. Yep. So I think it was just trying to find, you know, could I find my niche? You know what I mean? So, and then, I mean, I thought I found my niche. I just never felt that big niche, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
Was there was there ever any issue with contract guys and non-contract guys in OVW? Sometimes you always hear that story like, "Oh, the non-contract guys don't get along with the contract guys." Is that any truth to that?
we never had the issue in OBW, man. I mean, honestly, we never had the issue. I think everybody's always very respectful of each other. You know, I was always very respectful to, you know, guys who, you know, for lack of a better term, did a job for me, because when you have a character like Jacob Duncan who's a monster, I mean, you respect the guys who, you know, make him look like a monster. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
So I was always very thankful for that. And then at the same time, those guys who are busting their ass, who are non-contract guys, I mean, they're hoping to get a contract, obviously. You know what I mean? That's why they're busting their ass every day. You know what I mean? That's why they're taking all the fucking bumps and doing the jobs and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Where does Titus come from? Like, because you're originally Titus. I know technically Titus at one point in TNA. Is that something that they gave to you, and then you said, "Hey, I want to do this Jacob Duncan thing," or why was it a different gimmick at first when you first got there?
No, I mean, that's just what I kind of carried over, you know, was a Trytan character, stuff like that. And then, you know, it just never took traction. You know what I mean? It just never took traction. So, Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was there for OEW for like a year and a half. And I'm like, dude, I'm not getting noticed. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
What the fuck do I need to do? So we had a break, and I was just thinking, like, dude, I can be a big mass monster, which WWE at the time really didn't have. I mean, it had Kane, but he had been there forever. And I'm like, what about another big mass guy? Then I kind of based it on the Sling Blade character as far as the voice, things like that. And then, like I said, I called the guy who made Kane's mask and kind of told him what I wanted to be as far as kind of a backwoods, kind of uneducated Sling Blade type character. And, he sent me the mask, and I was like, dude, this is perfect. You know what I mean? And like I said, man, I thought I had it. As soon as I took Al and Danny that video there of the video that me and my wife did, they were like, "Dude, this is going straight to New York. This is amazing." And then it just never. I don't know, man. I just felt like at the time they were all in this MMA stuff, and they weren't in the characters, and it was just kind of I think wrong timing, And then I got jealous because as soon as the Bray Wyatt stuff started happening, I'm like, dude, that should have been the Jacob Duncan character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Big time. Yeah, for sure. Do you think that when you're in OVW that WB is paying like super attention to what's going on down there? Because sometimes it seems like they are, but sometimes it seems like they're not. Like they're not noticing like you're getting over. You know what I mean?
That's a tough question, man. I feel like honestly, they probably don't recognize it as much as someone in my shoes feel like they should. You know what I mean? Because obviously they're worried about the main roster stuff because that's where the money is. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But at the same time, like somebody like me who's fighting and grasping to get to the main roster, obviously I wish they would, pay more attention to it.
Yep. So when you do get called up, who does like the calling up, or is it Johnny Ace or Dreamer, or who tells you like, hey, we're going to start putting you on the road?
At the time, it was Dreamer. You know what I mean? And then you would get your travel arrangements, things like that. Obviously via email, stuff like that. And then, but yeah, Dreamer. I love Dreamer. Dreamer's like the coolest dude ever. So, you know, so um, Johnny Ace honestly probably dealt more with the, I guess you could say, mainline talent. You know what I mean? At the time when I was there, Dreamer dealt more with like developmental guys who were trying to, I guess catch that break. You know what I mean? So Johnny Ace dealt more with the mainstream guys.
When you do get called up, like you said, you beat Funaki, you're getting wins, but also losing a few times to the Miz on house shows. Do they do that on purpose to see like if you're humble, if you'll do the job? Like, how come sometimes some guys they'll like have them job on house shows and stuff? Is that to send a message or to see how you react?
To be honest with you, man, I'm not sure about that answer. You know what I mean? I just kind of, again, I was never into the politics of the business. I just kind of showed up and, did what I was told to do. You know what I mean? So, um, with a few times I wrestled Miz on the road, um, I would slip a banana peel, he would go over, and then I would beat him down after the match. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. You know?
Get your heat back.
Yeah. So, and then for knocking out, I would win on stuff like that. It was just so, I'm not sure the psychology of behind, what they were looking for at that point. You know what I mean?
I'm always like just curious about things like, wow, this big guy getting a big push and he's losing to like the Miz on house shows. Like it almost seems like they want to see how you react. Like, sure, I'll do the job, or if you're gonna be like, oh, pouting, or oh, I don't want a job or something. It always seems like that could be like the case.
Well, my thing was, always try to have a great attitude, be respectful, stuff like that. But at the same time, I felt like if I was more an asshole and kind of, you know,
Yeah,
went against the system, I feel like I would have got more of a push, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Because it seems like a lot of those guys, just through the years, that always kind of buck the system or like get made a problem, got to push.
because I love Randy to death. Randy Orton's probably one of the best, great. I mean, he's fucking amazing. But when he first got there, dude, he was fucking AWOL. He was crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's stories. I mean, stories, I'm sure, about Randy, you
Yep.
know. But
Yeah, there's great stories about him going at it with Triple H and Michaels, who were like, the political powerhouse at the time, and he didn't give two shits.
no, he did get in two shits and they fucking pushed him.
Yep.
Me being the, Mr. Yes Man and trying to be respectful and all that. And it's almost like they just kind of walked all over it and be like, all right, fuck this guy. You know what I mean?
Worked against you. Yeah.
Worked against me almost like I didn't have enough fight in me or something to fight for my position, something like that. You know what I mean? But if I was an asshole and be like, I'm going against the system. Well, I mean, even, Shawn Michaels back in the day, I mean, it's well documented. He was,
Yes. Yep.
what I mean, out there. And
Yeah, malcontent.
so I don't know, man. I'm just looking back, I guess if I was more of an asshole, maybe I would have gotten more of a push, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. When you're there and you're in WWE, you're making money. Are you just happy you're on the road, or are you actually thinking like, I need a push. I want to push. I deserve better." Because you're kind of saying like you're being a yes man, but are you wanting to get like something more? Or you're okay with just making money and being on the road?
When I was there, man, I wasn't happy just being on the road, but I wasn't necessarily looking for a push, but I was looking for getting a break to where at least I got a main roster spot where I had an opportunity to get a push. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, just give me a chance to get my character over, and I felt like I could. You know what I mean? But I just felt like I never really got that true chance to get Jacob Duncan over. You know what I mean?
You almost seem like an old school Vince guy. He's like a body. You know what I mean? He always loves those big body guys at one period of time.
Right. Like I felt like I felt like I just came in at the wrong period of time, man, because Vince is always a big guy, Sid Vicious, these guys, and you know, I had to look, but when I was there, they were all about the MMA stuff, man. It was always like, let's make it look real. Like I forget the guy's name, which I feel bad for. He had a brief angle with the Undertaker, but he was the MMA guy.
Vladimir Kozlov?
No, not Vladimir. He was an American. He had black trunks, long black hair.
Sylvester Turkai.
There you go. And it's like that's what they were looking for. And I'm like, dude, I'm not that. You know what I mean? I feel like characters. You know what I'm saying? So, I just felt like maybe my timing was off as far as my timing in WWE. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And apparently Taker and Turkai didn't get along. So that's an interesting story there. That Taker didn't really want to work with him after a while. I guess maybe he was too stiff, or I don't know what the reasoning was.
I know he was stiff as fuck with me when I worked out with him before. I was like, God, you know what I mean? So,
And you're probably bigger than him, right? I mean, he's a huge guy, but you're definitely bigger than him, right?
yeah, I was bigger than him. I was just like, we were fucking, wrestling around, and I'm like, dude, fucking ease up, man. I'm like, I have nothing to prove here, So, but I didn't know that story about Taker and him, but I'm sure that's probably the case because that angle obviously didn't last very long. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think right after that he was feuding with like Mr. Kennedy and MVP and stuff. So I mean, went completely the other direction for Taker.
Right. Yeah. So,
Kind of working with smaller guys that they were going to bump for him rather than him bumping, for them. Kind of flipped it basically.
right. But I thought what was weird was like in his matches, guys didn't even really bump for him. He just kind of got on him. It was kind of like a ground and pound. It was like, if I'm going to watch MMA, I'm going to watch MMA. I don't want to watch you do this on WWE. It's kind of boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what's interesting to Taker kind of went. I know he loves MMA, but he kind of went with that gimmick where he was doing submissions and a lot of punches. He wore the MMA gloves. Yeah, kind of went in a completely different direction with his character.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think when he was doing the American Badass gimmick.
Even after that, when he was doing it was the all black, but it was weird, like just the way he was wrestling. Him and Angle were having those like matches where he was doing submissions and stuff. So
Yeah.
just the Hell's Gate and everything else. It's just interesting, kind of the direction that he went in with his character.
Yeah. I mean, man, I have the ultimate respect for Taker, and I mean, Taker can do whatever the hell he wants to do. You know what I mean? In my opinion, and he's Taker, man. He treated me like gold. I can't say anything about it. I text him, talk to him, maybe twice a year now, and he was a great dude to me. There was no reason that he had to take me in and work with me in the ring and stuff like that, but he did. And I mean, Taker's Taker, man. I mean, what do you say? You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh yeah. So who were some of the favorite guys you worked with, and who were some of the least favorite guys that you worked with?
Uh, Let me see, man. I mean, I enjoyed working with Punk. We had some good matches. I enjoyed working with Punk. Val Venus. I mean, we worked dark matches. Val Venus was as pro as it gets. I enjoyed working with Cody whenever Cody first came up. You know what I mean? Paul Burchill and we had some good matches. Mainly in OVW. I wasn't a fan of Bob Holly. He kind of fucking buried me, tried to bury me. You know what I mean?
How so?
I had a good match against. Well, I had a good match in Detroit with Val Venus. Then we came back, and Johnny Ace was all pumped about the match. And then, Holly said some bullshit about, like, big guy like your size shouldn't be doing that move. And, it looks fake. But I'm like, dude, when I did it, the fucking crowd popped. So that tells me nothing. You know what I mean? So I just, I didn't appreciate that. But, that just kind of shows me when I was there, it was like Taker, Triple H, Cena, all these guys, they're not threatened by you. They see you as a new guy to make money with. So they're supportive of you.
Right.
But when you get some of these mid card guys who maybe feel threatened by you, then they try to bury you because obviously there's only so many time, only so much time on TV. So, I just didn't take to that very well. I'm like, dude, you've been here fucking 15, 20 years. I'm just trying to catch a break. Don't bury me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. What move was it?
I did a over and under with Val Venus where, I take the corner turnbuckle and he does, the leap over. And instead of me catching him, I did as he's coming down, I just kick him in the chest. And the crowd popped. Even Val, he was like, dude, you probably should have pinned me on that move because the
Right.
crowd, you know what I mean? But I slapped my leg. He was like, man, a guy your size, when you slap your leg, it just looks so fake. But I'm like, dude, the crowd fucking popped. You know what I mean?
That's all
So
that matters, right?
obviously it worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just little things like that. You know what I mean? And then when I was in TNA, what the fuck is what? I'm having a brain fart. What was his name?
Simon Diamond.
No, Mexican guy, big hoop earrings, bald. Starts with the K.
Was it Apollo? No, it wasn't
No,
Apollo.
no, he's WCW guy.
Big guy, small guy?
No, like 6'2", 6'3". WCW guy.
Sonny Siaki?
No, I love Sonny. He was great to me. Starts with the K.
I don't know why I'm drawing a blank too.
Fuck. What the fuck is his name? I mean, in some worlds, he's a wrestling legend. What the fuck is his name? He was a WCW forever. He was over.
And you wrestled him in TNA?
I didn't wrestle him. He just tried to bury me.
Oh, didn't wrestle him. Okay, Conan.
There you go. That guy. When they were doing my vignettes.
Should have thought of that immediately. I don't know why I brain farted that one. Yeah.
Yeah. When they were doing my vignettes and stuff like that, he compared my vignettes and all that to Glacier. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. You know what I mean? Which obviously Glacier was a big bust in WCW. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yeah, he's like burying it before it's letting it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like,
What
all right.
was what was his problem? Why did he do that?
I don't know, man. I never got to know him that good. I didn't have much respect for him after that. You know,
No need to do that, right?
why are you gonna try to bury a young kid, man? Yeah, I mean, everybody's just trying to make a living. You know.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah.
As we start to hit the wind out here and head towards the finish, where's the favorite place that you work? TNA, WWE, OVW. I know you worked Hustle for Takata over in Japan. You worked for Puerto Rico. You're pretty dominant over there for a little bit. So, where's your favorite place to work?
Uh, my favorite place to work, honestly, is probably the Indies.
Really?
You know what I mean? Just because you had so much freedom. You know what I mean? There was you. There's no time limit, things like that. And when you're traveling the Indies, you get to know so many people. And you know, I grew up watching wrestling in high school gyms, armories, stuff like that. And it's just there's something about, man, you know, paving your way, you know, and you think, oh, this is what it's all about, man. You know, and then as you move up to these big promotions, you got a thumb on you. You know what I mean? You've got a time limit. You got this, and you can't do this move because they're using this in the main event or the semi main event, or you can't do this or blah, blah, blah. You know. In the Indies, you just kind of go out there and create, and when you create, that's when you learn. You know, you learn what the crowd reacts to. You just learn. That's how you absorb and you learn. When you have 100, 200 or 300 matches on the Indies, that's how you learn. I mean, I had so many good matches on the Indies with Chris Harris, Abyss, Chase Stevens, Andy Douglas, all these guys who were with TNA. But we came up together in Nashville, man, and we would travel the roads, have fun, and it was just like, yeah, that didn't work tonight. Or it was like, yeah, dude, that was fucking hot. You know what I mean? And you just learn. That's where you learn, man. Is on the Indies, and I think it's hard to learn. You know, when you have agents telling you one thing, and then you have a 6 minute time limit, you have an 8 minute time limit on TV, and it's just like that's when you have so much pressure on you, man. You know what I mean? It's just
Yep.
like, and then you're working with people who are like Taker or whoever, and you're like, well, I want to work, but I don't want to be too stiff because then it'll be it. And it's just like, you know, you get so much shit in your mind. It's like you're not enjoying the moment. You know what I mean? Like I remember working for Nike in Detroit, and I'm slowly pouring him up by his hair, and he's like, "Oh, easy on the hair, easy on the hair," and I'm like, "Dude, I mean, how do I pull you up then?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like I don't know. The Indies, man, is just that's where you learn your craft, and you know, you're not making money per se or big money, maybe, but that's just, you know, when you're a pro wrestler, you learn to live on the road, and the Indies on the road. That's the fun part. That's where you develop relationships, lifetime relationships. I still talk to Abyss, Chase Stevens, Chris Harris, all these guys. You know what I mean? And it's just like they'll send pictures or this or that. Oh, do you remember when this happened? I'm like, yeah, man. You know, it's just to me that was the funnest part of the wrestling business is just really the Indies coming up and just learning the craft, how to live on the road. You know, you're broke, you're not making shit, you know, and it's just, that's the Indies is the fun part, man.
And then the politics of of the big leagues, if you will. Too much politics for sure.
It is the entertainment business, man. There's politics, you know, and like I said, I never fell into that. If I did, maybe I would have, you know, caught that big break, but I showed up, did my job, left to the arena, went back to my hotel, went to the next town, things like that. I'm just not a drama guy. I'm not a politics guy. I'm a little small town guy from Williamsburg, Kentucky, southeast Kentucky, redneck. I'm getting ready to go deer hunting this weekend. That's me. You know what I'm saying? So,
Nice. Yep. Oh yeah. What's next for you though, besides the deer hunting? Anything on the horizon? Maybe wrestling or not even wrestling related?
not wrestling related, man. I'm just living my life. I've got a daughter who's 13. I got 11-year-old twins. Right now, I'm just supporting them as far as their activities. My oldest daughter's competitive gymnastics. You know, knock on wood, she's a great athlete. She's won state every year for her, you know, age group. We go to Dallas, Columbus, travel all over for gymnastics. My 11-year-old daughter, she's, you know, a soccer guy, a soccer girl. My little boy, 11 years old, he's got the sweetest heart of anybody, but zero athletic ability in his body. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yep.
So he's going to be a late bloomer. But my 11-year-old twins, they were born at 25 weeks. They were preemies, so they were in the hospital and in the NICU for 160 days. So he'll hit a growth spurt. Um, you know, I never really shared with them about the wrestling experience, but their babysitter did, and they think it's cool, and they watch matches and stuff like that, ask her about it. So I think they're proud of dad, but just my number one goal right now, man, honestly, just being a dad, you know, and to me, that's the most important job in the world, is being a dad and show these guys. Especially nowadays, there's so much out there and so much out there that's negative. So I just want to be there for them and, show them kind of the right direction and let them learn, obviously, from some mistakes I made growing up. So
Any wrestling in the future?
I don't think so, man. Honestly, I'm happy where I'm at. I feel like I was very blessed, to have the opportunities I had. I'm 46 years old now, and I don't think so. Maybe if Abyss or Chris Harris or one of my buddies asked me to like tag with them and do an event or something like that, I might. But as far as to go out and work shows and indies and travel and do things like that, like we used to do, that's not for me anymore. You know what I mean?
So where can everybody find you? Social media and otherwise, or do you even do really social media?
I don't do much social media, man. I mean, I'm Ryan Wilson on Facebook, and I was never even on Facebook until my kids started school, and then they were like, "Well, Mr. Wilson, that's how we communicate as far as
Oh
schedule."
yeah. Yep.
So I got on Facebook, but I don't do really, I don't do Snapchat, none of that stuff. You know what I mean? I think I'm on Instagram, but I don't really look at it. You know what I mean? So I'm a pretty simple guy, man. For me, less is more, man. So I'm just a simple guy. I appreciate the opportunities I had in life. Um, coming from small town USA, and I had an opportunity to wrestle for WWE and TNA and Japan and Puerto Rico, and then I feel blessed that the opportunities I had. Could have worked out better and got a bigger break, absolutely, but life happens for a reason, man, and I try to stay humble. So
All right. Awesome. Brian, thank you so much for all the time. I really appreciate it. Thanks for going down memory lane with me today.
no, brother, thank you so much for the opportunity, and if you guys ever want to speak or reach out in the future, please let me know. I'll be here for you. And other than that, man, God bless, and let me know if I can speak to you guys again in the future, brother.